Okay, second section, chapter 16. So, moving westward into all our new territories. So, the Nevada's Comstock lode is discovered in 1859. Silver is going to spur the boomtown of Virginia City, which soon had fancy hotels, theaters, saloons, and brothels. So anytime they found silver, they found any kind of thing that would bring people into mind. You would start to get the development of cities. Some of them lasted a long time. Some of them, once the mines were mined out and there was no more silver, etc., they would become what we would know of today as ghost towns. You have the General Mining Act of 1872. Allows those who discover minerals on federal property to work the claim and keep the proceed. That law is still in force today. It benefits consortiums of powerful investors who fund engineers and advanced equipment. Mines are going to create many dangerous low-wage jobs. Mining towns become a market for timber from the Pacific Northwest because they need to be able to build all the houses and things. 1870s, you have a combination of overhunting and disease which disseminates the bison herds, which had once overrun the plains. South Texas had millions of cattle grazing. Texas ranchers began the long drive, basically hiring cowboys to herd the cattle to rail lines in the northern plains. Men are going to rush into the region to raise and move cattle. Millions of cattle were living on the land, destroying the natural ecosystem. You have drought, bitter cold, and blizzards of 1885 is going to destroy the industry. Cattle ranching survives to become part of the integrated national economy. You have the invention of the barbed wire, which is going to end the long drive because people aren't able to just cross across anybody's land. So you start to get stockyards that are going to appear near ranching operations and near railroads, and they'll start transporting them that way. And they still do minimal cattle drives and things like that. That's still kind of very old school in that respect. All right. Homesteaders are going to go west as families. They're looking for economic opportunity, and the success is going to depend on the work of the entire family, including the wives and the children. The notion of domesticity. So a man's devotion to family made him a good worker. It was believed that women could provide moral guidance to men, including Christian charity, commitment to home and motherhood. You are going to get some conflicts with the Mormons' acceptance of polygamy and women's suffrage in Utah. That's going to be some problems. Wyoming Territory grants women's suffrage in 1869. Life on the Great Plains is extremely hard for young mothers who struggle with isolation. When you got your land, you got 160 acres. If you have any idea how big that is, your nearest neighbor is nowhere near. You can't see them. You have to take a ride to them, and sometimes it can take several hours to get there, depending where on your land you are and where on their land they are. So there's a lot of challenges, including grasshoppers. If you have ever read Little House on the Prairie, there is a description of the grasshoppers coming in to eat the crops in the fields, and there were so many grasshoppers you could hear them munching at night and just destroyed fields and fields of crops. So that is a real problem. You've got prairie fires when you didn't have enough rain, hailstorms, tornadoes, blizzards, not enough water, not enough wood, lumber, or fencing, because these are grasslands. Very difficult to grow things on. So these homesteads are a lot of times just too much for most farmers to handle. So success kind of proved unsustainable. John Wesley Powell wrote Report on the Lands of the Arid Regions of the United States in 1879 and told Congress that 160-acre tracts would not work in dry regions and instead encouraged smaller irrigated farms. They proposed that the government work to develop water resources in the West, building dams and canals. Congress's plan rejected Powell's plan, though. Later, historians consider his report a good critique of the problems that existed with development of the Great Plains. So definitely what he thought was very true. Some Americans are going to start to fear overdevelopment of the West, so Congress is going to start to preserve sites of unusual natural splendor. 1864, Congress gave 10 square miles of Yosemite Valley to California for public use, resort, and recreation. So you get Yosemite National Park. In 1872, they're going to set aside 2 million acres of Wyoming's Yellowstone Valley as the world's first national park. Railroad tourism is going to develop side by side with other Western industries and provide an important motive for the creation of Yellowstone National Park. Management guidelines for these national parks took time to establish. You had to get rid of the Indians, you had to prohibit hunting, and of course you're going to have a lot of resistance to both of those things, which is going to lead to a lot of conflicts. So it doesn't go smoothly, but people who enjoy those national parks today and the people from all over the world who come to see them, especially things like the Grand Canyon, nowhere else in the world can you see stuff like that. We are one of the few places that has preserved our national land in these pieces of beauty. So, alrighty. Last slide here. Indian ceded lands. So before 1850, between 1850 and 1870, you can see we are moving westward and taking more lands from the Indians. 1870 to 1890, and then on 1890 we put them in reservations, and you can see how little the space is of the reservation in comparison to the land that they had previously. All right, so that is the end of that section. We have one more section in chapter 16. I am going to have you watch a TED Talk by Aaron Huey at the end of that. So that one will be a little bit longer, so just keep that in mind. I hope you have a good morning, afternoon, or evening. Catch you later.